Hello. Oh, I have this backwards. That's going to be annoying. All right, there we go. Now, whatever, it's going to be backwards today then. Sorry, guys. But hello. I hope everyone's doing okay. I think my mic's working. All good. So today, I only have like an hour and a half. So today we're going to be talking about what's just a few things that's been going on. First, mainly like the escalating tensions with the cartel in Mexico. Just basically the violence and instability that's been going on. The Mexican criminal networks and how that's going to change due to the taking out of a crucial leader. And these aren't like small time groups, these are big organizations. They run large parts of the country. They just do a lot. And I don't know if you guys have seen over the past couple of days what's been going on over there. The killing of El Mincho. And now there's heavily armed groups going around trying to take over lost power, or there's just a gang war going on. Like, I have a friend who lives in Mexico, and he's just telling me about what's going on and how they're going around shooting people, blowing up cars. He said they went to the airport, they blew up a plane. It's just a lot. It's way too much. And there's Americans trapped there now. So that's our first story. And then our second one, we'll be talking about the United States and our tensions over there with Iran and the military positioning and posturing, the political rhetoric behind it. It's honestly been like a quiet thing in the media. It's like no one's talking about it. Usually if Donald Trump does something, they're all over it, which makes me feel like this is a bit more real because the media is not making this a big deal. And out there, like, you know how they are. They're hysterical. They get hysterical when he does anything. And they haven't talked enough about this posturing with Iran and the civil war there that's been going. It's not even a civil war. There's just the people are fed up with the government. Iran wasn't originally this Islamic regime. So people are kind of fed up there, as well as they see around the world and the freedoms we have. They're not happy. And they haven't been talking about that at all. It's been going on for like a month now. And then the third story, I don't know if we'll get to. It's kind of just about where I feel like people are trying to push the rhetoric in the country in terms of policy and division. What'd you say, Miss Ann? Welcome to the show. Topic. You're always here. Thank you. They said they want Americans in Mexico to shelter in place because no one likes a moving target. Oh my goodness. For real. So let's look at this first video that I have pulled up here. I have a few. I go to work here at like 2, so I have some time. So we're chilling.
Mexico to shelter in place as law enforcement tries to regain control of cities that have fallen into chaos in the hands of the Mexican cartels. This is after the Mexican military took out a notorious cartel kingpin with U.S. support. We're learning a little bit more about our role in all of that. Not a lot of detail, but we had one. The carnage, cars.
Yeah, so when the story originally came out, they did not say that the U.S. provided intelligence. So that's kind of a new thing. I mean, obviously we did. I don't know in what world we wouldn't. The Mexican government and their military and police are so incompetent. They wouldn't have found this out on their own. Or even if they did, they wouldn't have acted on it. So
torched, roads blocked, banks and local businesses set on fire as those cartels are now fighting for power. It's like everybody else is in the middle of a gang war right now.
This whole thing highlights the real power that cartels have in Mexico. Look at this map. It shows how much territory Jalisco New Generation has in Mexico. You can see here's the American southwestern border. The Sinaloa cartel in this shade of blue is traditionally the largest cartel in the world. You can see historical cartels like the Gulf Cartel and the Zetas controlling different parts of Mexico. Here's Cabo, and here's Puerto Vallarta. And this turquoise stretch is CJNG. That's the Jalisco Cartel, new generation, right there.
All right. So
if we go back, my friend was telling me, like, along these areas right here, that it's generally safer because they're smaller towns, because that's where he's from. But he is saying that there is a genuine cartel war going on, and he says they usually last for a while or don't stop, because he said originally that the cartels that are fighting at this moment, they used to work together. So now that the power shift has happened, they're not working together anymore. So he's saying, I was like, well, how long is it going to last? And he's like, forever at this point, because they used to work together. So now they're going to be enemies forever again. So we just basically started a whole power tension there.
CJNG. That's the Jalisco Cartel, new generation, right there.
All right. So the story today is not necessarily about this retaliation attack from the cartels towards their own country of Mexico, but that Americans are actually caught there in the crossfire, in a sense. Some of them can't even leave. Airports are shut down. Travel is shut down, literally. And people are having to shelter in place. So please keep your thoughts and your prayers with them so they can make it back home safe. I don't think that should be a partisan issue, of course. Now,
yeah, this is crazy. That was my phone going off. I just don't. The cartels need to be dealt with. I mean, at this point, I don't know why we've had such a threat at our border, especially when we keep saying that they're bringing in drugs. And this is why we need to have a secure border, and Americans are dying. I mean, they also bring out the facts of, like, what do they say? Like, fentanyl kills more Americans than every year than that died in the war in Afghanistan the last 20 years prior. So to me, that's just, if it's this big of an issue, why aren't we dealing with it? And that's,
in case you missed
it's
a
like
couple
we
of
just
clips,
keep letting it go. And let me do that because I'm trying to find a better point. I believe the president spoke about it. No, this is something else. All right. I have another video about it. This one's weird. But how are you guys doing today? What is it? It's Tuesday. I got my new schedule, like I was telling you, if you caught me on the Direct D podcast or stream, whatever you want to say. If you caught me over there, I'm on my new schedule now, so I have more time during the day to stream. So gonna see how it goes. I like the new schedule though. But let's get to this one.
Too dangerous for me. And the danger for Americans in Mexico is certainly about to turn up, or it is turning up currently, because of the fact that the Mexican military, with the help of U.S. intelligence, took out one of the major leaders of one of the most powerful, if not the most powerful, cartel in Mexico, the Jalisco New Generation cartel leader, El Mincho, right? El Mincho, who apparently the Mexican military and authorities allowed to basically run parts of the country for decades.
Let's get to what I wanted to show you, because they're going to show
Apparently,
you.
they killed him in a military raid.
Apparently, there's a video
Mincho
or a
had
voice audio of him talking. We want to see what's been going on. Let's look at this. People in the airport. This is from Guadalajara. I can't even say that. Set a plane on fire. Like, this is crazy. Imagine if this happened in the United States. People would be going crazy. But yet we sit here and we act like we're living the end of the world because ICE is running around the street. Okay. Crazy, man. I mean, you could be living in Gaza, dying. You could be in Afghanistan dying, in Russia, can't speak your word, dying. Do you want me to keep naming the places where it's not safe to live, and then people sit here and act like United States is the worst? It's like, all right. So sheltered, but let's get to what I wanted to show you, because
Apparently, it's supposed that
this is weird.
Tengo identificado 30 güey.
Hey, ¿quién,
Apparently,
audio
this
of
is
El
him
Mincho
talking
basically
to.
punking this police officer.
Delta 1.
hey, ¿quién habla?
Mira bien, hijo de tu puta madre. Soy Mencho, güey.
¿Cómo?
Relaja tu puta gente a la verga. Soy Mencho, güey. Relaja tus putas partidas. Si no, te voy a partir tu madre. Tienes toda tu bola de perros. Te tengo identificado 30 güeyes. Hasta tus putos perros te voy a matar si no te relajas, güey. ¿Cómo ves?
Ya está, señor, ahorita los bajo.
Oh, no cuelgues, hijo de la verga. Te
No.
tengo ubicado en Chacala, güey.
No le estoy colgando, le estoy diciendo, ahorita los bajo.
Póngase bien las pilas, güey. ¿Qué se le cuesta ser amigo, cabrón?
Yo
¿Uno
sé,
no se
yo
mete
sé.
con ustedes para que se pasen de verga?
No, señor, ahorita yo se las bajo.
Pongan, mire, revíremeles a todos los hijos de su puta madre, porque todos agarran dinero y son buenos de puercos.
Sí, es lo que me están
Se me
diciendo. Que
ponen a
están...
tiros, o tú eres el primero que vas a marchar por ellos, León.
No, señor.
¿Vale?
No, señor, no se trata de eso.
Cuádrense a la verga, porque aquí los vergazos están al 220, ya se la sabe. Y miedo no hay.
No, señor, no se trata de eso. Ahorita yo los bajo.
Entonces, si quieren amistad, aquí va a tener un amigazo, cabrón. Si no, a chingar a su madre a la verga.
No, yo sé, señor.
Ya estoy hasta la verga de que no entiendan, loco.
Señor, usted me conoce, usted sabe que yo soy amistad.
Pues por eso me extraña, cabrón. Yo te entiendo, güey, pero pues no mames, yo sé que tienes gente y la familia de chingada. Verga,
Yo lo
póngase
sé,
las putas pilas.
Yo lo sé, señor. Nada más
No
aquí-
quiero que me apagues este puto teléfono. Después te voy a marcar, güey. A ver si no se relajaron a la verga, ¿eh?
No, ahorita le voy a
a
marcar.
todos en general, güey. Relájenmelos a la verga. Por favor.
Ahorita le voy a marcar de otro número a este número que me está marcando.
No, este ya no le vuelvas a marcar. Yo le marco cuando yo pueda.
Ándale, pues.
Pero no me lo apague porque lo voy a entender como negatividad.
No, señor, ahorita le mando un mensaje de otro número para que no marque el otro.
Órale, pues, Melón, ahí les quiero eso, que se relajen a la verga.
Sí, señor, usted me conoce, usted sabe que hay respeto y hay amistad. Nada más
Ya
aquí,
está, igualmente, de aquí para allá también.
Yo lo
Ahí
sé,
disculpen por las malas
nada más
palabras.
que
Pero
aquí los muchachos
¿vale?
son los que están allá y ahorita yo se los agrupo.
ahora pues, ahí le encargo.
Ándale, señor.
Ahí relájenmelos a todos, dígale que va de parte mía.
Claro que sí, señor.
Ya está.
Ándale.
Damn, this guy was straight up ordering around the police, right? Boss around the police. He said, yes, boss. Okay. See, Jefe, right? Like, this is some crazy stuff, right? This is what's happening in Mexico. Now, the president, Claudia Sheinbaum, right, tried to assure us that no, we're not a cartel state, okay? And going after the cartels, that doesn't really help, right? Having the U.S. military help us be doing.
Regresar a la guerra contra el narco no es opción. No es opción. Primero, porque está fuera del marco de la ley. Todos estos de la derecha que se llenan la boca de las palabras Estado de Derecho y defienden la guerra contra el narco. Pues la guerra contra el narco está fuera de la ley, porque como lo dije o lo he dicho en varias ocasiones, es permiso para matar, sin ningún juicio. Y eso en México nadie o muy poquitos están de acuerdo. Está fuera del marco de la ley. Y segundo, no sirvió de nada más que para aumentar los homicidios en México y el nivel de violencia. Entonces, estos llamados autoritarios, porque son autoritarios, es ir hacia el fascismo.
President of Mexico.
So is she saying that they should just prosecute them in the court of law? I mean, hasn't she seen the history? There's no prosecuting them in the court of law. They have to get them out. And it's just going to become a bigger problem. It's going to become a problem to the point where it's like, how could I describe it? Like the Taliban, to now where governments are recognizing them as the political power of that state, and they're the ones that you have to go to or through to talk to. I mean, if the United States wasn't right here, I feel like that's would have happened already. Let's just keep it 100%. If the United States wasn't right at the border, Mexico would have already been taken over by the cartels, even though they already are. It's kind of like how people go, "Oh, the Jews run the United States," but they run a lot of it. Well, the cartels literally run Mexico. Like that's something you can't say isn't true. It's a fact. You can talk to Mexicans, people who come from there. They're going to tell you the same thing. But anyways, there's that. I hope the Americans who are there, I hope they get home safe and don't go back to stay away for a while because funny enough, I was actually going to go to Mexico. I think I was actually supposed to go this weekend. Yeah, this weekend. I was going to go. And then all this happened. And now I'm like, I'm not going. It was going to be my first time going. Now I'm not going. That sucks. But our next topic at hand, we have our posturing with Iran and what's been going on. We got a video here from Chris Cappy. I don't know if you guys know who he is. He is a cool guy, Chris Cappy. He does military breakdowns. I'll show you his videos. Am I on this? Is he on the screen? Yeah, okay. He does military breakdowns, just all types of things. So if you're interested in that type of stuff, I suggest you go watch Chris Cappy because we're going to get into it. You'll see how good he breaks things down. He breaks it down for like the average person, which is nice. So let's do it.
Have you ever felt understood?
That's
My
annoying.
natural response.
But it's the command that's responsible for brutally killing as many as 30,000 Iranian. This is the Thrala headquarters in Iran that you've probably never heard about, but it's the command that's responsible for brutally killing as many as 30,000 Iranian protesters in January. So they suck pretty hard. Their job is to suppress rebellions and restore control of the country. So in order to topple the Islamic Republic regime, you need to knock this system out. It's the Death Star vent weakness point. The Thrala headquarters acts as the entire internal security brain when unrest hits. It's the most critical cog in the apparatus to suppress the Iranian people. The Chinese Communist Party recently sent them cyber warfare technology that allowed them to instantly shut down communications and the internet access across the whole country. That's what the Thrala headquarters is responsible for. But the United States military has a counter operation to this that's legitimately insane. On the mountainous western border of Iran, American operatives move silently at night through gaps in the security to smuggle in a solution.
Oh boy, here I go toppling again.
We'll see how it's part of America's plan to topple Iran.
This video's partner, Supremacy World War III, is how I de-stress when I'm in the bubble bath. It's a free-to-play online PvP strategy. The game now has all depth to the where just connects 30
to Iran ahead of strikes, according to the Wall Street Journal. This opens up communication for the resistance movement and allows them to organize meeting locations and avoid crackdowns, even if the internet is shut down again. Iraq, Turkey, Syria, all of these countries on Iran's border have U.S. operatives on the ground, and they are familiar with the key smuggling routes.
There we go. I'm always muted when I'm doing some random stuff. What up, Capsule? Dude, I never get to stream like this early in the day. This is nice. There's more people. But so we did take our forces out of Syria. And we're just basically we were doing a whole like reposturing. We've put 2 aircraft carriers. He's going to break it down. We put 2 aircraft carriers, more than like 200 planes. We've repositioned aircraft tankers from here in America. I believe I saw 3 of them. I could show you guys if you want. There's an article. It's not an article. It's like a deep dive Reddit chat with tinfoil hats on. Anyways, so we did that. He's also going to explain that we've sent over some of our best air support. So it's going to be an interesting thing of why are we doing this? Well, because the people in Iran are upset and they want the regime to fail. But the regime has killed so many people in the last month in these protests, and no one's talking about it.
Border have U.S. operatives on the ground, and they are familiar with the key smuggling routes into the country.
But the smugglers face real risks of being shot by border guards. Fortunately, U.S. operators absolutely mog Iranian ones.
What up,
This
Cassie?
clandestine, risky
What up,
operation
concerned
has
citizen?
successfully
Hope you guys are all
moved at
having a
least
good morning or
6,000 of
day.
the satellite
I mean, it's
internet
gonna be
kits
afternoon.
into the country.
But one of the conditions that is helpful to overthrow a regime is having some kind of resistance group on the ground. And these U.S. special operators that are on these borders have been embedded with Iranian Kurdish resistance groups. In fact, during the last protest, those resistance groups crossed over the border and killed Iranian guards. But they stopped short of going any further because, according to their commanders, they didn't have U.S. air power overhead to support them. The Institute for the Study of War think tank reported that the Iranian regime's concern about cross-border Kurdish militant activity will likely cause the regime to divert resources to address this threat. Reporters spoke to U.S. officials in the State Department who confirmed this covert action. But why would they do that? Why would they confirm this top secret information? What about OPSEC? The reason for publicly disclosing this is to send a message to resistance groups inside of Iran of continued.
And I don't know if you guys saw, I think it was maybe It Smells Like Israel. Anyways, damn, dude, you just took my thought away. Crap, that was funny. Bob said the last time I was in Mexico, one of the bar's bathroom was a map going straight to Chicago, and I listened to spots to stop. What? Like an underground tunnel? Damn it, Capsule, you took away my thought. I can't even. Whatever.
U.S. covert support. But the risks here are enormous.
Just owning one of the Starlink terminals is illegal and would get you thrown in a federal pound-me-in-the-ass Iranian prison for multiple years.
The Iranian regime's internal security apparatus is a giant problem if you're a U.S. war planner, because one of the goals of a U.S. military strike would be to spark the resistance movement to overthrow the government from the inside. The strategy is that once the bombs start dropping, then protesters could take advantage of the chaos.
Oh! Yeah, fuck you, Capsule. I remember now. Anyways, so if you don't remember Donald Trump, when these protests started maybe like a month ago, yeah, it was maybe a month and a half ago, he was telling the people of Iran that we support them and, you know, we're going to help them. And, well, that's what he was saying right there with the saying that we are confirming our special support because we want. That's the biggest goal here. And yeah, and that's why like made me laugh, Capsule, when you said smells like Israel, because yeah, I'm fairly certain they're a part of this too. But if they somehow get in the news feed for this, it's over. It's a wrap. Like the medias are gonna start talking about it, and then yeah, it's a wrap. So I don't think they'll bring up Israel. I don't even think they'll involve them in all this. Because if they do, then you guys know what's gonna happen.
But it's not an invincible apparatus here. This open source intelligence study looked at leaked internal documents from this facility, the Thrala facility, that revealed everything about how it functions and revealed its weakest, most vulnerable points. This 80-page document outlines everything from their command structure to their leadership to each and every individual target that would need to be hit to take it out. Every headquarters location, what their responsibilities are, distribution of units, the tactics that they use.
But how is America exploiting that weakness? Well, when the protests in Iran happened in 2026 in January, the U.S. military didn't have all their ducks in a row for a decisive strike. But now those ducks are being put in a row. Quack, quack.
Because the largest U.S. military buildup since the Gulf War is currently underway. The 2 U.S. aircraft carriers and hundreds of U.S.
I mean, honestly, with the way Donald Trump is moving, it's been kind of crazy. He's cut off China and their oil reserves with Venezuela. Well, he also cut it off with Russia, too. Now we're doing this push for Iran, which is going to if this happens, it's going to either, I don't know. It's either going to lead to like another 40 years of war, or I don't know, being optimistic here, maybe just maybe I don't know how to describe it. Maybe this is going to change the aspects of the Middle East going forward. I don't know. This is a big power play. I don't think people look at this and what's going on and they just think, oh, Donald Trump's being crazy. Like, no, this is because if they're able to isolate the Houthis and Hamas and all these other subsets of Iran in this proxy war we've been going on, because Russia, when they went on their war with Ukraine, they just decided to back out of this proxy war like a lot because they needed these forces. They needed the resources to be going towards protecting what they have going on over there. So Russia isn't as much as a force in this as they should be. Obviously, they would have done something about Venezuela, and they would have liked Hamas and the Houthis to. There's also another group I just can't remember at the moment. But this is huge. This is kind of like the Cold War, but it's Iran. Russia has been using Iran as a proxy in this regions for so long. So it's going to be interesting to see what goes on because Afghanistan is still a shithole. So we'll see.
Fighter jets are now moving into position, and they're surrounding Iran, preparing for a decapitation strike. The leader of the Islamic Republic has tweeted in response, threatening to send these American warships to the bottom of the sea, the geopolitical equivalent of come at me, bro. Meanwhile, 25,000 American troops are now moving in to reinforce the Middle East, enough to make any E2 say who.
But what are they aiming at?
Thrala headquarters is run by General Hosseini Najat. He has already ruthlessly been responsible for putting down 2 protests in the past, and he's a known enjoyer.
By the way, if you guys are more interested in stuff like this is like my bread and butter. Like I could talk for hours about stuff like this. I watch so many people and but stuff about like foreign politics, war, I don't usually bring that up, even though it's my favorite stuff to even like watch and listen about. But I think it's a big deal because everything that's been going on right now in the country, I personally, every single story that comes out just feels like a distraction to me. But then it's like, what's the distraction? And for me, it's the midterms coming up and all the foreign dealings that have been going on. It's all just been distractions to distract from that. Because like I just brought up a bit ago, why isn't the mainstream media vilifying Donald Trump for the posturing with Iran? I mean, there's been a few Democrats here and there. AOC came out about it. I have some videos of her talking about it, but I don't know. Sorry, my phone. Holy crap. Give me a second. My alarm's going off. Oh my gosh. I gotta reconnect my camera because my alarm just went. You won't be able to see me. I'll keep playing the video, but I gotta reconnect my camera.
Of licking boots. He's fast becoming the general in Iranian military that's best at killing other Iranians. If there were any ground campaign inside Iran, it would be undercover special operatives from the Mossad and from U.S. Special Forces that would target Iran's key leadership. General Najat would be high up on that list because he is the general in charge of how Iran tasks out their Basij militia. What is the Basij militia? Most people like myself have only ever heard of the infamous Iran's IRGC, but the Basij is actually way more important if you want to understand the country's system of internal oppression, because it is Iran's mass volunteer paramilitary force with a manpower estimated to be about 100,000 strong. They are the backbone of the regime's internal security reserve. They are called up in times of crisis, and they maintain control of the people through brutal violence. The Basij is subordinate to the IRGC, who totally dominates them. Destroying or degrading this key unit would be very important. The first step in degrading them is mapping out the targets. We know that it was originally established in 1995 following unrest in the capital. That's actually when Ayatollah Ali Khamenei first started to increasingly rely on it to remain in power. By 2009, they had expanded massively, setting up 4 sub-headquarters.
I'm back.
It's developed over the years through these multiple protests, becoming bigger and bigger and gaining more and more importance, and more control is now routed to them in what are called red alert situations. They're created this special system of surveillance where they've doubled down on their coercion in off-the-books prisons where they interrogate people. And this has allowed them to quickly fragment Iranian protest networks. Ultimately, they are then able to reassert control of the country time and time again. However, their locations are now closely monitored by U.S. air campaign planners. Take note, one of these locations is in Nadir, another is in Quds, Fath, and Gadar, all located strategically throughout the city of Tehran. The air tasking order of U.S. fighter bombers will prioritize these targets in their list. Precision strikes will aim to destroy these bases so they cannot coordinate.
I can turn your wildest ideas into a song.
Okay, so
Just
while this
describe
ad
it in a
is
few
going,
words. Choose a style and let Mareka.
this guy doesn't like talk about like stupid political stuff. He just tells you the facts of the situation, how we're posturing, and how we would execute a strike. So if you don't like to know that stuff, then you're going to be a little bored.
Challenge to knock out the network entirely, because intelligence reports indicate that since 2007, the IRGC has managed to decentralize by setting up these new provincial guard sites, as they're called. And there are now a total of 32 key guard posts that are tied to the 11 operational headquarters, including Tarala. By spreading out further like this, it's allowed them to tighten control and add a level of redundancy in case any location is hit. This is the kind of intelligence that will be handed to American and Israeli fighter pilots and bomber aircraft. To hit all these targets simultaneously may require massive sustained air campaign, because America now has a boatload of combat power that's moved into the region literally and figuratively. A total of 20 warships will be in the 5th Fleet now. The meme CENTCOM forever never dies. On top of that, the Gerald Ford aircraft carrier, which just got done taking down another dictator in the Caribbean, is moving directly to the Middle East and is looking to add another notch on her belt, I've heard. Online flight trackers are now showing the arrival of more than 80 American fighter jets on their route from Europe to reach a total of over 220 aircraft in the region. U.S. troop numbers are over 50,000. This outstanding graphic here shows all the capabilities of the U.S. moved into theater, including hundreds of Tomahawk missiles that are in their inventory.
Let's look at that. Can I make this bigger? No, I can't. I tried. All right. Let's see here. So far, we have 2 aircraft carriers, which come with their various sorts of planes, fighter jets, reconnaissance, missiles. But accompanied with them is always going to be their protective assets, destroyers, tankers, submarines, which they're not even talking about because we don't like to put that out there, but I'm guarantee you we have at least 2 nuclear submarines in the area at this moment. Maybe 1, because that's all you really need for this small area. But there's one. There's one nearby. So don't forget that. But basically what he's describing is that the reason for all the posturing is that if we're actually going to do a decisive strike against them, unlike the last one we did where we were just targeting a specific area, this time it's going to be more towards a regime change. So we have to target their air assets and other things to help local militia be able to move more effectively. So that would be things like armor, bunkers, armories, especially communications hubs, because that's how like your adversary is going to have a wide variety of coverage against air attacks is when they have their SAM site hubs and anti-air. So that's really the main reason why we're seeing a lot of this posturing, which is why I believe that there may be a effort for a regime change there pretty soon. I mean, I think they might. I don't know. Donald Trump is like extremely unpredictable when it comes to this stuff. So I can't sit here and say, oh my goodness, he's going to make the right choice or the wrong choice. But I do know that there will be something coming soon, either talks, you know how he is. He's going to threaten. And then more than likely Iran, as they already said, they've threatened to shoot or blow up some of our ships. And then we're going to attack them. That's kind of how I see this going. All this posturing. If I was in another country, you're not going to just posture up on me like this. Especially when you talk so much crap to each other.
Moved into theater, including hundreds of Tomahawk missiles that are in their inventory. This contingent would have a lot of targets that they would need to pound. According to this report, there are 23 IRGC besieged bases. Each is directly embedded within Tehran's municipal district, which means the risk of collateral damage is higher and the use of precision strikes would be required. The risk of hitting innocent people increases when they're located centrally in the city like this, which would be counterproductive. They have two overlapping bases that are concentrated in politically sensitive regions. These commands functions basically as the hubs that protect the entire regime. But it gets more complicated when trying to plan the strike out, because in total, there are actually 3,000 of these decentralized militia besieged neighborhood bases, which are basically just checkpoints everywhere that exist throughout Tehran's 375 neighborhoods. We can see here visually how this city is divided into areas of responsibility for them.
And what he's meaning by this is that we just can't attack them. We can't just roll in with some troops and some tanks, bomb for a couple days and think it's going to work out. It's not. It's really not. They've been able to build up defenses for a long time. So this whole thing is coming to like a...
These are the units that conduct the checkpoints on roads to prevent protesters from having full mobility. The target list becomes overwhelming quickly, we can see. And that's why it's always a good idea to not go it alone when you're undertaking something big and scary like regime change. America's allies in the Israeli Air Force would likely be heavily involved in any attack. There are two key things to note here, I think. All of these fighters are now freed in Israel from having to worry about a second strike from Hezbollah like would have happened in the past, because Hezbollah has been heavily degraded. And now that Syria's al-Assad has fallen, this has opened up this new corridor, a wide open gap for Israeli fighter jets to follow through, which they've recently exploited in their strikes against Iran. They operate more than 200 combat aircraft, so we're talking about a combined over 400 fighter jets. Now, a Delta Force decapitation raid like the one in Venezuela is theoretically possible here, but it would be much more difficult because Caracas was conveniently located just 12 miles offshore. In this case, helicopters would have to travel from the borders over 500 miles across land inside of Iran, which makes them a vulnerable target, before reaching the city of Tehran, where the country's key leadership is located. They could deploy discombobulators along the way, but that's a difficult task.
Okay, great. Wait, were you even listening?
Sorry for ad. Sorry for
taking
ad.
a single note.
I didn't even check the chat.
The next biggest target for toppling Iran's regime is their missile inventory. This needs to go. In the past 2
honestly wouldn't say we're too weak. I mean, I believe we could make a campaign like this really short and easy. I think it's about the optics, really. I mean, everyone already calls the president a dictator, Hitler a fascist. He can't just go run into a country, drop a few bombs, topple a dictator, and declare democracy. I mean, that's what all the other Republican leaders did back in the day. It's not going to work now. So, I don't know. I think they're trying to go about it. I don't know. It's the optics. Like I said, the media hasn't been paying attention to this. So, and that already throws up like 35,000 red flags for me.
Years, it's been reduced, you might not know this, by about half. There's only 1,200 missiles remaining in Iran after strikes on their storage depots. And an estimated only 100 launchers still remain that can even fire those missiles. They've greatly reduced the volume of fire there, and that number is down from 480 in the past. 2/3 of Iran's firing capacity was totally destroyed. The threat, while not completely gone, is heavily diminished. But it's interesting to note that this is Iran's priority, right? Because recent satellite images that I've seen showed that Iran has been busy at work reinforcing these missile bases. Intelligence officials say Iran has quickly repaired about a dozen of the ballistic missile sites that were totally KO'd in airstrikes last year. They've been racing to rebuild these instead of the nuclear facility, because it's interesting to note that so far there's only been limited fixes to the nuclear sites that the United States smashed. It also appears that the bunker buster bombs were effective because the satellite image evidence shows that the nuclear facilities in Iran are currently inoperative and are just largely empty. The Western Iran hosts some of the highest density of ballistic missile infrastructure that would need to be hit. This includes the Imam Ali missile base and the Kermanshah missile garrison and the centrally located Samnan missile complex. Several midnight hammers would need to be dropped on them, and it would take some inventory of tomahawks to totally destroy them. Destroying the missile systems located in the south is key to mission success because this is within range of the Gulf shipping lanes. This is where Iran exercises control of the Strait of Hormuz. Iran has a fleet of fast attack boats that they used to temporarily close part of the strait recently, where they also have threatened to lay sea mines through here. This was done to remind America of the leverage that they have on the transit route. But doing this, shutting this down, would be the nuclear option, no pun intended.
If you're interested in this stuff, I have a guy named Perun. I don't have time to pull him up now, but what he does, like this guy, he breaks down, like he just showed you the posturing. Well, the Perun guy I watch, he will show you the posturing, the battalions, the troop strength, and just like tactic. He will put it into a more broader perspective about how battles will go. He does real-time battles, daily real-time battles. So, yeah, this stuff gets a lot deeper.
Because it would shut off
This
about
is just
20%
like
of the world's
a
oil
brief.
supply, and their allies in China would be pretty pissed off about that. Why is the US implementing a strategy to topple Iran? What is there really to gain here? It would totally reshape the global balance of power across the world, because China gets a combined 20% of their oil from Venezuela and Iran. If America gained control over both these sources of oil, it would give them a strategic advantage over China. This is why part of the negotiation is that the US wants Iran to move away from China as an ally. The aftermath is impossible for me to predict anyway. It's unlikely, but it could lead to the former Shah's son being put into power, who would be very, very friendly to the United States, or the country could devolve into some kind of civil war like in Libya, God forbid what happened in Syria and Yemen, causing chaos and instability, which would spill over into neighboring nations, and then terrorist organizations would rise in the vacuum of power. Victory for the Islamic Republic of Iran, once a war were to start.
Yeah, this is a big moment here because Afghanistan, Iraq, and Iran, if this goes bad, will fall into almost an unrepairable state. Like it will become a no-go hot zone. It'll be hard for us to even get intelligence in the area if this goes bad. It will be very bad. It'll be just decentralized violence.
Would be to simply survive it. The US and Israel, though, could claim victory conditions simply by saying that they degraded Iran's missile abilities, but really in reality, anything short of toppling Iran's government once a war starts would not have been worth the cost unless they go all the way full send regime change. Or the regime could collapse and be replaced by martial law, or something else that I haven't even thought of could happen. To put that into scale, this gigantic military deployment is super expensive. Maintaining forward deployed units like this
That was
burns
so weird.
the
Why were his
resources,
hands so
but it
orange?
makes them some of the best leverage during negotiations that you could have. The risks are higher for them, though, because launching these aircraft from carriers would put them within range of some of the first direct ballistic missiles that would target aircraft carriers in history. You might say there are other vectors of attack, and it's true US forces are located at 19 major bases here, but a lot of people don't realize that they're not allowed to attack into Iran from those bases. They're only authorized to run defensive interception of incoming missiles. This is due to legal constraints, with the host countries not being down to clown, not cool with getting involved in another one of America's classic regime change wars. Some are skeptical of the chances of war, but open source troop movements now show that THAAD and Patriot launchers, these air defense systems, are being moved into and deployed into the region. It's become clear that hostilities are more and more likely because pulling those systems off other locations reduces strengths elsewhere, like in the Pacific, so that wouldn't be done.
So if you're not familiar with the Ukraine and Russia war, we've sent them like a variant of what you see on the screen right here, a variant of these, because these are so powerful that you could attack from Kiev all the way to Moscow. But we gave them like a short range version because we didn't want them to be able to shoot that far. So it's just it's getting interesting, guys. I just thought it was something to bring up. I don't even think I'm going to talk about the third story because I feel like this is a very important, because with the rising power of Al-Qaeda and ISIS, I mean, and the Taliban, and the fact that they're starting to somewhat work together, which a lot of people aren't realizing or just don't know in general, because they scare you that, oh, this is the rising terrorist group and this, but we funded all of them. We've caused a lot of this crazy crap that's going on in the world right now. We've had a large hand to deal with why we're posturing right now, just not dealing with problems in the best way that we could. And a lot of these groups are starting to realize that they could just hate us and not hate each other as much. And if you think I'm not telling the truth, just go look at the ecosystem of what's going on in Afghanistan. So, all in all, it's just getting a little weird. The stuff with the cartel just comes at a weird time. We've had this stuff with Venezuela. Like, there's too much going on our side of the globe for us to not pay attention to this. So, but at the end of the day, we're going to figure out, we're going to look through the BS together as a community and figure it out. But with that, I got to go ahead and get to my day. I got to go to work. Anyways, thank you for everyone who came today to the stream this morning. I'm on my new schedule now, so this should be more consistent, which is what I need to do, and it's what I want to do. So it should be more consistent. I have a lot of time in the mornings now to make a stream, put it together, or just make a video in general. So I just need to get better at the part of posting the night before that I'm going to do it. But I got home at like 11:40 p.m. I was just tired. But tonight I'll do my best to try and do that and keep up on more information that's going on during the day. I work in a place where you can't even have your phone on you during the day. You can't even have a piece of paper or like a pen. Like, you're cut off straight from technology where I work. So it's hard to keep up on a lot of news stories. I got to come home and try and watch 15 videos while getting off work. It's a lot, but I'm going to figure it out, create a better system so that I could be better for you guys. So with that, thank you guys for coming out. I hope you guys have a good rest of your day, and we get better than we were yesterday. So that's just our goals. Again, thank you for coming out to another stream of Street News Network. I'm Langston. Thank you guys. I'll see you next time.